Daily Parsha Insight for Wednesday, the fourth Aliyah. Today, just to summarize, we did a recount. We did a Moshe in his last addresses to the Jewish people. He does a lot of recounting their shared history. Today, he recounted when the Jews received the Ten Commandments. And we briefly repeated the Ten Commandments today in today's Chumash. So, in the original description in Yisrael, when it first was the account of how God gave the Jewish people the Ten Commandments, the Torah emphasized how the divine revelation shook and shocked both nature and the Jewish people. There's different midrashim of how, it was awesome. It says the birds didn't chirp. It said, there was surround sound. The Ten Commandments coming from all directions. It was a big rupture in nature in many ways.
Wow!
For the divine, communication to come through, and also the people were shocked when the people. It says when they heard the first commandment, their souls left their bodies, and God revived them. They heard the second commandment, and the soul left the body, and God revived them. When they expressed their fear of dying and account the intensity of the revelation after the first two commandments, Moshe replied that although they would not die physically, right, God did intend for this overwhelming experience to, quote unquote, kill, as in neutralize, each person's sense of self, ego death. Here, in contrast, and then what happened was Moshe took over, kind of being the middleman for the rest of the 8 commandments, because they said we can't have that level of ego death. Here, in contrast, Moshe is speaking to the next generation, who will enter the land of Israel and be subject to all the distractions for earning a livelihood and tending to their own needs, right? The mundane preoccupation that we have in having our own country and land. This generation will not be able to afford the spiritual luxury of annihilating the sense of self. They can't have ego death. They have to go farm and make, society and governments and take care of the roads and stuff. I don't know. You can't collect the garbage and have ego death. Therefore, in this version of Moshe recounting the giving of the Torah, Moshe describes how God told the people that they were correct to be afraid. Right? What did it say here? At the end of today, meaning here, I guess Moshe said it more in a very accepting, you were afraid. That's okay. That's good. You're afraid to lose all sense of self. Before, it was kind of a rebuke. It was like, this is supposed to kind of elevate you to the level of a tzaddik, neutralize the ego. Here, it's later on, the goal is to go into the land of Israel, and you have to have some level of self. So he's saying it more as a matter of fact and acknowledging that is needed to have a sense of self. And that in retrospect, in the model of God-human interaction henceforth, you shouldn't be afraid to lose a total sense of self. Although they may not be able to achieve the previous generation's self-nullification, they should still remember it, nurturing a vision of that spiritual perfection. In other words, if it's a good thing to not, to have a sense of self, then why are you mentioning that? I told you at the time that they should have been okay with losing a sense of self. Both things are true. This generation has to have a sense of self, but they should aspire to not have a sense of self. In other words, in Tanya parlance, this is a generation of the Beinoni. The Beinoni aspires to be the tzaddik. They're not the tzaddik. The tzaddik in Tanya language is someone who has ego death. The Beinoni doesn't have ego death. They just ego management. But and that was the call of the hour of what was going to be the land of Israel. But remember, there is a concept of ego death. Anyways, that's the daily insight of today's Chumash. Wow. And then we're going to go to the Mitzvah on 136, the daily Mitzvah of the Rambam's Sefer HaMitzvahs, Book of Mitzvahs, the 63rd positive Mitzvah we are commanded regarding the act of bringing a burnt offering. As I recall, Mike does not like the term burnt offering. It's really a scent offering. It's burned, but it's the focus. Ola means ascend. You burn the whole thing, up. The goal is the ascent, not the burning. It's not about pyromania. It's about having it go up. That every ascent offering or burnt offering, depending on how you translate it, whether individual or communal, must be brought to Mitzvah. This is the mitzvah of how to bring an ascent offering, a karban ola. The 146 prohibitions that were forbidden from eating any meat from a burnt offering. Again, it's burnt, it's ascent. It all goes up to Hashem. Other karbanis offerings, the kohen gets to eat some of it. This one, they don't. The 64th mitzvah is that we're commanded for the act of bringing a sin offering, a different type of karban, a karban chatos, regardless of its type, must be performed in the prescribed manner. It's a certain procedure.